The European Court of Human Rights has ruled that Caster Semenya was denied a fair trial in a fight against gender regulations. The verdict doesn't lift the competition ban, but it validates the emotional toll of her years-long battle. It raises urgent questions about dignity, identity and justice in elite sport. And for more on this, we are now joined by Kegomoditswe Mere from the Commission for Gender Equality. And she joins us now via our video link. Kego, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. Let's start off here and let's get your views as the Commission for Gender Equality following that ruling by the European Human Rights Commission.
Good evening.
Good evening. You can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Could you please repeat the question? I just had a technical glitch.
Okay, I was just saying, looking at the ruling earlier this week by the European Human Rights when it comes to Caster Semenya and what it means for gender equality, what is your view as the Commission for Gender Equality following that ruling by the European Human Rights Commission?
Okay. From the ruling that was made by the European Commission, it stated that Caster was denied a fair trial in terms of Article 6. So a fair trial is not just about affording an individual a day in court, but actually speaks to a process which protects a person's dignity, creates a sense of accountability, and also affords the aggrieved party an opportunity to seek justice. So a fair trial on its own is an essential tool and a cornerstone of our democracy. It helps limit the government's abuse and also limit state authorities' abuse. So the Commission believes that it is important for state parties to really commit to eliminating discriminatory practices against all women and at all levels.
And what does this ruling mean by the European Court for Human Rights when it comes to the harm it has done on Caster Semenya, when it comes to her human rights and her ability to compete fairly, when it comes to her natural abilities as a woman?
Okay. No, the ruling essentially just highlights the need to ensure that there is dignity. As you can know, that Caster Semenya weighed on a violation of dignity, and dignity is one of also the cornerstones of our democratic constitution. And dignity has also been highlighted to be an essential tool in upholding human rights principles. The principle of upholding dignity has also been highlighted by our courts. This principle was upheld in the case of S versus Makwanyane, where the court highlighted that the right to dignity is equal to all other rights. So essentially, this means that it is important that in all processes that are done, with all laws that are developed and with all regulations that are issued, all these regulations are grounded within the principles of human rights. The lens of human rights is upheld, and that persons do not find themselves in a position where the law violates their human rights and denies them access thereof.
And Kego, when it comes to Caster Semenya and the case overall and what it then essentially means for her to compete, I also understand that it doesn't necessarily lift the ban for her to compete in her sports with her womanly abilities. What does it mean overall for her going forward in her career to compete fairly with other women?
What essentially means that although the court was unable to lift the ban, on an international scale, I'll, for example, use within the context of South Africa, rules of that nature which do impair on a person's human right are rules that our constitution strictly speak against. So in the event, for example, if any regulatory body in South Africa were to impose those rules of such nature, those rules will be subject to legal challenge, because our constitution, in terms of Section 9, clearly states that no person or the state may discriminate against any other person on factors such as your gender, sexual orientation, and sex. So within the South African context, such rules will still, within the South African context, rules of that nature will not be permitted. And it's Chapter 9 institutions like ourselves which will advocate against the enforcement of such rules.
All right, Kegomoditswe, thank you so much for your time. That's Kegomoditswe Mere from the Commission for Gender Equality there, just giving us their views when it comes to that ruling in which we saw earlier this week by the European Court for Human Rights pertaining to the case of Caster Semenya.